Okay. We are go. Excellent. There are some announcements to make first. If I could just, a few things that I've been to and seen. I've attended the online retirement event for Fred and Leslie Bradfield from Time Norfolk, a charity dedicated to supporting people through pregnancy loss. I paid my respects in person to Eve Collishaw, former Lord Mayor. I attended a meeting of the Royal British Legion. I took part in an online roundtable discussion as Lord Mayor of Norwich, which was very interesting, to celebrate Europe Day at the invitation of the Mayor of Rouen, to include the Mayor of Hanover in Germany and the Mayor of Aveiro in Portugal and their citizens. And I should add that I would have voted Voila on Saturday night for the Eurovision, just to promote the twinning arrangements that we have. I attended the AGM of Future Projects and attended a civic service at St John's Roman Catholic Cathedral and attended the opening of a new classroom block at the Clare School. And finally, attended the funeral of David Bradford, another former Lord Mayor, a matter of a few hours ago. Thank you. And I'd like to ask for a minute's silence, please, in remembrance of David Bradford and Eve Collishaw. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda. I call upon Councillor Harris to move the election of the Lord Mayor.
A day for celebration, but not as we would normally expect mayor making to be. We might be a relatively small group gathered here today, but this is a very special day for Councillor Kevin Maguire. After a year in waiting due to the pandemic, he is now to officially become the Lord Mayor of the City of Norwich for the forthcoming year. Kevin grew up in Merseyside in what was Harold Wilson's constituency. It was a traditional working class family housed in an excellent new council home, so common of the post-war period. His upbringing and early life perhaps explains why in later years he has such an unbroken affinity for the people in the ward that he now represents. Some people would say people of a similar background to himself, but who in some cases have not been afforded all the chances which our society should offer. Kevin has always realised that these are the people who are striving to do the very best that they can to provide a good life for themselves and their family. Kevin came to the UEA in 1971. It was whilst in the UEA bar, so no surprise there, that he met Liz Ottaway, a nurse who was later to become his wife. Liz had strong family ties with Norwich. Many of you will know the name from the removal firm of Hadley and Ottaway, and some might remember her father's shop in Eton. Kevin's love of Norwich started in those years at university, times when he can remember walking through the North Earlham and West Earlham estates, marvelling at the well-built council houses and the tree-lined streets, and our historic city centre. As he says, he simply loves Norwich. On completing his university course, he married Liz in 1975, and they lived in a tower block in North Peckham in London. He qualified as an environmental health officer at the Trafalgar Square office and worked for 4 years for the City of Westminster. When reflecting on this period of his life, he realised that everything is relative. For example, there was a person who felt that she was hard done by because she could only afford to live in Knightsbridge rather than Mayfair. It was whilst in London that their first child, Tom, was born. Realising that perhaps a move would be good for family life, Kevin moved to Hingham in Norfolk and worked for South Norfolk. His mode of transport working in this rural district was a motorbike. Kevin is not so sure that this gave him a particularly professional aura. Perhaps he was seen as more a man of the people. It was in Hingham that their second child, Victoria, was born. Then, as with so many people who studied at the UEA, Kevin came back to Norwich. He worked as a principal officer in the Environmental Health Department from 1986 to 1991. He said that the ethos of the council, as it is now, was all about looking after the people of Norwich. He remembers this as a very happy time in his life. The chief executive at the time was John Packer, father of Councillor Matt Packer, another person who cared passionately for Norwich. Kevin remembers that John brought in the possibility of staff being able to lease cars, and that opened up the opportunity for him and the family to travel. Whilst working at the City Council, Kevin and Liz had 2 more children, Niall and Patrick, and amazingly enough, Kevin still had time to continue with his studies. He did a Master's in Occupational Psychology at Hatfield Polytechnic, and then there was a job opportunity at what was then Nottingham Polytechnic as a lecturer in environmental health before moving to the psychology department. At one stage, he was staying in a motorhome on a campsite during the week in Nottingham, returning home at weekends. He gained a PhD with a thesis on risk and culture in the construction industry, and then there was a permanent move to Nottingham with Liz and the 2 youngest children. Then, this will come as no surprise, back to Norwich in 2005. Liz sadly died in 2007, but from what Kevin has told me, she would have been so proud of Kevin's achievements and would most certainly have wanted him to enjoy every minute of the year ahead. Luckily for us, Kevin took partial retirement in 2015 when he became a councillor for Wenston Ward, and then full retirement a year later when he joined the Cabinet. He has been an invaluable part of the team, a Cabinet support member and a most effective Cabinet member. He has been chair of the Preservation Trust, and that goes back to his early days in Norwich when he was attracted by the history that this fine city has. Today, Kevin has a new relationship with Julie, who was a long-standing family friend, with her children Paul and Moira being childhood friends with Kevin's 2 younger children. Julie was a teacher at early years and will now be by his side as his principal consort for the year. They both enjoy park runs, travelling abroad, that seems a distant memory, and the theatre, in particular opera. I don't think that Kevin would mind me saying that he has a penchant for European red wines. From a personal point of view, I would have to say that it's been an absolute pleasure working with Kevin as a Cabinet member. He is a caring person, always sees the best in people, and his calm, considered manner makes him incredibly easy to work with. This is not a person with an ego. This is a person who really cares about people, a person who has a tremendous knowledge base. Kevin and his consorts will be incredible ambassadors for this fine city. I'm looking forward to hearing about Kevin's civic charity for the year. I know that he believes with all his heart that everything possible should be done to develop children in their early years. So, Kevin, it is time to put aside your Panama hat and red anorak. Time for you to put on the robes, the fancy hat and chains. Enjoy your year. Finally, it gives me great pleasure to formally move that Councillor Kevin Maguire, having the necessary qualifications, be elected to the office of Lord Mayor of this ancient city for the ensuing civic year.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Wright to second the motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Following the COVID hiatus, it gives me great pleasure to finally second the nomination of Councillor Maguire to be Lord Mayor of Norwich for this civic year, and to have the opportunity to share just a few brief words about him in support of the eloquent sentiments already expressed by Councillor Harris. As we've heard, Kevin has a long and interesting work and life history, but I would like to pick out just a few areas where he has demonstrated commitment to this council, Norwich, and the wider community. I first came to know Kevin when he served as Vice Chair of the Scrutiny Committee in 2016. He acted as our representative on the Norfolk Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee, putting his academic mind to good use in ensuring good health outcomes for our citizens. But it was on the issue of food poverty that Kevin played the most important role that year, leading for the committee on a significant piece of work investigating the causes of food poverty in Norwich, with the committee recommending positive steps for the council to adopt. Sadly, we note that the scourge of food poverty has been all too evident during the COVID lockdowns. Kevin has also shown dedication to Norwich and love of its historic buildings through his chairmanship of the Norwich Preservation Trust. With the role of Lord Mayor being the most historic role that we can bestow on someone, It therefore seems highly appropriate that someone who seeks to preserve and enhance our history should become Norwich's first citizen. I would also like to highlight Kevin's fondness for parkrun, something that he and I share. With nearly 250 parkruns under his belt, and over 200 of those in the beautiful Eton Park, Kevin joins so many other parkrunners in giving back through his volunteering efforts, without which parkrun would not be possible. Following a slightly faltering restart, I hope that our new Lord Mayor will be able to lead the charge, joining me and other councillors who are runners, plus the 100 of other park runners at Eton Park when Parkrun eventually begins on June the 26th. His dedication to Norwich and its civic institutions leaves me in no doubt that he will have a successful year as Lord Mayor, and I'm sure you'll join me in finally being able to wish Kevin and Julie the very best for their year as Lord Mayor and Consort. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. Will all councillors present please indicate? Those in favour? Okay. Those against? Count that quickly. Abstentions? The same. That's carried. I declare the said councillor, Dr. Kevin Maguire, duly elected.
Fellow councillors, distinguished guests, officers, I wish to add my welcome to you all on this very special occasion in a time when we are, we hope, starting to come out of the pandemic. I'm really grateful to Councillor Harris. Gail, that was indeed a wonderful and moving speech. I will try to live up to all that you have said. It's been a real honour that you have been my proposer. You and I have worked together really well to great effect. In fact, the collegiality of the Cabinet has been such a positive and productive experience. We have many outstanding achievements. Thank you for your kind words, James. You've been an honourable adversary and supporter. I want to briefly mention Alan Waters for being probably the most affirming human being on the planet. Alan, you've been nothing but supportive of me and a very wise mentor, and I will rely on that support throughout the mayoral year. I don't know whether to thank or curse Sam Earle, who taught me to becoming a councillor. Sam, I am, of course, very grateful, and especially for your solid support and all the time you have given without measure. I am pleased that you've accepted to become one of my consorts, along with Julie. And of course, Martin, who's been a great buddy as we've walked and campaigned and worked for the residents of Wensum Ward. And thank you to Vaughan. Your magisterial role has been remarkable in the last 2 years. You've been Lord Mayor in a most historic time, facing a pandemic, the likes of which the city has not seen for over 100 years. You have done so with great statesmanship and kindness. Julie, my principal consort. We've been together for nearly 10 years. You've been such a support and such a calming effect on me, first as a friend, then as something much more. Your help in my time as councillor has been invaluable. As Lord Mayor's principal consort, your help will be essential. I am so proud to have been elected as Lord Mayor of this city. I was going to say greatest city in the world, but that is not the Norwich way. One of the reasons I love Norwich so much is that it does not boast. It is a wonderful, wonderful place of understatement where superlatives only detract. During my civic year, I intend to promote all the activities and people that between them weave this precious tapestry that is our city. Every thread is as vital as every other. I will use my year to give voice to everyone in the city, and that will include the promotion of the city's fantastic commercial, scientific and innovative industries. I will do that to anyone I can think of, and to this end, the Sheriff and I will work particularly hard in strengthening the links with our twin cities in both Europe and beyond. I want to say just a tiny bit about my background in order to explain some of my plans for the year. I did grow up on a council estate, as Gail has said. As a Roman Catholic, I became the beneficiary of a peerless, state-funded education provided by Jesuits. My faith has been an important guide throughout my life, especially in relation to the ethics and actions. Civic life is all about helping others. As a Catholic, I remember in the 50s and 60s some of the prejudices that I faced, and even the 80s was refused a job before that became a protected status in the Equality Act. It is for this reason that I want during my year to call upon the major faiths in Norwich, plus the Humanist Society, to provide members of a seminar group to meet 3 times over the year to discuss some of the ethical issues faced in public service. I see them as the modern equivalent of that long-pensioned office of Lord Mayor's chaplain. My intention will be to publish the findings in a way that will help us all to think through how we approach the challenges that public service faces in our city. Details of members involved, meetings, administration, and formal publication are being worked out. I've learned over my life how essential is education in a person's life chances. I understand all too well that a good education from the earliest years is the key to one's future. For a truly inclusive society, everyone must get the best start. They have the right to reach their full potential. It breaks down class barriers and gives opportunities for a person to make their full contribution to our society. Representing Wensum Ward, I've seen how vital this is. One of my first campaigns was to try to reverse county's intention to close the Shore Start Centre on Motum Road. We were successful. I saw how Earlham Early Years worked hard to develop those very young children so that they were ready to benefit fully from the next stage in their education. It is for this year, for these reasons, that I want, during the civic year, to promote early years education. And to this effect, I am writing to the Norwich's higher education institutes, which include 2 world-leading universities, and ask them to support a series of Lord Mayor's lectures on the early years of children. The lectures will be there to promote to everyone interested, major aspects of early year development. If funding can be found, it would be good to bring all the lectures together into a conference at the end of the year and then to publish the proceedings. Finally, to the point you've all been waiting for, it is my passion to promote early years children that has driven our choice for the civic charity for 2021-2022. We have chosen the wonderful local charity of Home Start Norwich. This is a local community network of trained volunteers who, along with experts' support, help families with young children as they go through the challenging times. In their own words, we are there for parents when they need us the most, because children can't wait. You'll hear far more from them over the year. Councillors, distinguished guests and officers, thank you so much for listening to what I have said. I hope they become more than just words, and with your support and our collective endeavour, I believe they can. Thank you. The Lord Mayor's Consort, Julie Keane, will now be presented with the chain of office. I also name Councillor Martin Peake and Samuel Earle as my consorts. I now call upon Councillor Waters to move the appointment of a sheriff.
Lord Mayor, my congratulations on your appointment. You have been an excellent cabinet member, and I know you will be an excellent Lord Mayor pursuing those objectives in the way that you have described in your speech with passion and commitment, and you were ably supported by Julie and assistant additional consorts representing a very strong team going forward. So well done. So it's my pleasure now to move the appointment of Caroline Jarrold to be Sheriff of the City for the forthcoming civic year. And it's a personal pleasure in making this speech, because I've known Caroline, I've known many members of the Jarrold family over the years. I've worked closely with Caroline on a number of projects, and it's always been a pleasure, and it's a really good opportunity for Caroline, after a year's wait, to take up the role. And of course, remember, we were hoping that it would coincide with the 250th anniversary of the founding of the Jarrold's business. But what's a year? And there'll be opportunities, I know, to find ways of celebrating that significant achievement in the next few months. I know how passionate she is and how committed she is to the city, and she's eminently qualified. And I'm going to describe some of the important contributions she can make to the city over the next period. So first of all, there is a Jarrold's tradition of civic office, part of their sense of responsibility and engagement with the city in which they have built their businesses and made such a significant contribution to Norwich. So thinking about what Jarrold's have done, what they are doing, it spans deep roots in our economy, printing, publishing, the flagship Jarrold's store since 1840, and of course in a new incarnation of a property developer and the redevelopment of the Barrack Street site, which producing some very good-looking riverside flats and also some business development alongside it. And so entwined with this is the fact that there have been a number of Jarrolds who have served as sheriff, I think 3, and I certainly had a very good working relationship with Peter Jarrold when he was sheriff. And of course there is an iconic Jarrold's photograph of John Jarrold, appointed as Lord Mayor in 1970, the 200th anniversary of the Jarrold's business, with the family. And I think I can visualise now a young Caroline Jarrold sitting on the steps of City Hall with her grandfather, surrounded by other members of the family. And he would be very proud to know that you are taking up civic office in that fine tradition. Importantly, Caroline brings to the role a wide experience and knowledge about Norwich, in several important roles that she has taken on through the years. So she has a role as the Community Affairs Advisor for Jarrold's, which includes work with the John Jarrold Trust. And the John Jarrold Trust itself covers some very broad categories: welfare and community, arts and education, medical research, historic dimensions around churches and historic buildings and the environment. And Caroline doesn't do things lightly or for a short period of time. So she seems to work in 10-year stints. So she has been the chair of Visit Norwich between 2005 and 17. That's 12 years, not 10 years. The Norfolk and Norwich Festival for 10 years. She did some really important work back in a previous period. A previous chief executive of the council appointed her to do some work on the emerging Norwich economy. And there is a very strong strand of cultural activity and international connections, and my colleague, Councillor Martin Schmierer, will be talking about those in seconding this motion. And she's been recognised justly for the work that she has done. So a Doctor of Civil Law from UEA in 2017, which I think is extraordinarily useful for talking to High Court judges, given that this is one of the Sheriff's responsibility in their year. A Deputy Lord Lieutenant for Norfolk, appointed to that post in 2018. And she is certainly, crucially, extraordinarily well networked. She brings with her networks, evidence of partnership working across Norwich. And of course, for the work that we're doing with the Norwich 2040 vision, this will be invaluable. So, ticks all the boxes. And I know she will be ably supported by her husband, Nick, who will be her consort for the year. And I've got to know Nick, mostly at festival events here. F15, that's right, we have our seats, our usual seats on the floor. So it'll be a pleasure to see more of you, and I hope you enjoy your year as well. So, Lord Mayor, what I would like to do is to move that Caroline Jarrold, otherwise known as Linda Caroline Dixie, having the necessary qualifications in abundance, be appointed Sheriff of this ancient city for the ensuing civic year.
I call upon Councillor Schmierer to second the motion.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor, and I'd like to begin by congratulating you on your appointment and wish you all the success with the philanthropic endeavours that you have set out. And I also wish you a lot of fun. I can speak from experience and attest to how enjoyable the role is. So I really wish you all the best for the forthcoming year. And I would also like to associate myself with the very, very articulate and warm words that Councillor Waters has already said about the attributes and qualifications that Caroline Jarrold has, which make her eminently suitable for the role of Sheriff of Norwich. When I was first asked to second this appointment, an element of self-interest, I confess, did initially enter my mind. My fiancée and I have just set up our wedding gift list with Jarrold's nonetheless, and so maybe if I say some kind words, the odd extra plate or piece of crockery may appear in our basket gratis in a few months' time. But in all seriousness, it is an absolute pleasure to second Caroline for the role of Sheriff. When one thinks of Norwich's historic offering, one thinks of its cathedrals, its streetscape, its castle, and much, much more. When one thinks of its commercial offering, one thinks of Jarrold's. And it is so fitting that as we emerge as a city and as a nation from the pandemic, with all the socio-economic changes that has induced, we celebrate those institutions and individuals who have served our city thus far and who will continue to serve us as we write the next chapter of our city's story. Obviously, as we have heard, this appointment was meant to coincide with the 250th anniversary of Gerald's, but as Councillor Waters has said, why not celebrate 251 years, which is, after all, numerically or chronologically even more remarkable. In those many years, it has been wonderful to see how the Gerald family has been so integral to civic life in our city, and Caroline follows in the footsteps of other members of her family who have done so much for this city to promote the profile of it beyond not just the borders of our own county, but indeed our country. Those twinning links and partnerships that Norwich has forged with other cities in France, in Germany, in Serbia and Nicaragua will be vital going forward as Norwich and Britain more generally is reshaped post-pandemic, hopefully as a more outward-looking, welcoming society, despite whatever political hurdles may be thrown our way. Given our common German heritage, it is a true pleasure to commend this appointment. Our twinning links are only as strong as the people whose enthusiasm and passion supports them. We do need people with the energy and vision to make the links and relationships work, and I know Caroline will be one such individual. One area that such links will be vital is in the arts, especially in music. As chair of the Norwich Philharmonic Society, which organises concerts in this venue, Caroline will be able to promote the strong artistic and cultural offering which Norwich provides. In particular, the links between the Musikinstitut in Koblenz, which has organised regular musical exchanges since the 1980s. In my own time as Lord Mayor a couple of years ago, I was particularly impressed with the Triorca links between young musicians from Koblenz, Novi Sad and Norwich, which Caroline, I know, has supported. These are the kind of links that are so profoundly wonderful in bringing communities and whole peoples together. Norwich needs to be part of this kind of cultural and artistic nexus, and I'm confident that Caroline will pursue this going forward. The final point I would like to make is to note that the roles of Sheriff and Lord Mayor are ceremonial. Gone are the days when the Sheriff could arrest recalcitrant citizens and imprison them in the Guildhall. The role is now primarily one of promoting the city and supporting those institutions, organisations and individuals who make our city such a wonderful place to live in. Caroline, I know, has already been doing so much of this. She will bring a passion and a wealth of experience to the role, and so it is only right and proper that she should be chosen as the next Sheriff of Norwich. And I am therefore absolutely delighted to second this appointment.
I will now put the motion to the vote. Will all councillors present indicate those in favour? I think that's unanimous. I declare, therefore, the said Linda Caroline Dixie, known as Caroline Gerald, duly appointed.
My Lord Mayor, honoured guests, members of the City Council, and those guests watching this ceremony for the first time via their computers, some even from overseas, it is with honour and humility that I accept the position of Sheriff of Norwich for 2021-22. Congratulations to our new Lord Mayor on his appointment. Kevin and I had only met on Teams or Zoom before today, but seemed to have established an immediate rapport and a common vision for some of the things we would like to achieve during our year in office. I'm looking forward to working with you, Julie, and my husband and consort Nick in undertaking our roles, recognising that it will be an unusual and possibly challenging year as we all hope to resume activities where people can meet more easily, fulfil their plans and celebrate their achievements. It is with a bit of a relief that both Kevin and I received our second jabs today, a complete coincidence. Marion and Peter Princely and former Sheriff David and Giselle Walker have generously shared their experiences in the role, and I thank them for their insights and enthusiasm in preparing us for the coming year. I'd also like to thank Max Aldridge for her support and adapting to a very different way of operating. The leader of the council and Councillor Schmierer have been most kind with their words in supporting my nomination, and I thank them for this, and the members of the City Council for their confidence in appointing me. The only other mayor meeting I have attended was when my grandfather, as referred to by Alan, John, was Lord Mayor in 1970, and as children we were even allowed to travel in the civic coach, which is probably quite rare now, that people having actually managed to do that. It feels rather remarkable to be following on from 3 other members of my family who've held the position of Sheriff of Norwich as well. I have crossed paths with several of the members of Norwich City Council over the years, but following on from Alan and Martin's speeches, I thought you might like to know a little bit more about my life and some of the themes I would like to pursue this year. I was born in Norwich to Richard and Valtraud Jarrold. My father ran the retail division of Jarrold & Sons Limited, and during my childhood oversaw considerable rebuilding and extension of the department store to give it the overall shape which it has today. Sadly, my father passed away in 2019, but he would have been so pleased to learn of my appointment and the recognition it gives to the place of Jarrold's in Norwich for 200 years. We were actually established in Woodbridge in 1770, so we will be able to celebrate 200 years in Norwich in 2023, which is the year that we moved to Norwich. I see my appointment as reflecting the role that the company has played in this community for so many years, and of the many people, both family and the generations of others who have worked for the company or supported it, who have been part of that heritage. The pandemic has created a difficult environment, but let's hope that Norwich as a centre will continue to thrive and the company will continue to play its part for many years to come. My mother, Valtraud, comes from the delightful wine-growing village of Vinningen on the Moselle, very close to Norwich's twin city of Koblenz, where we have spent many happy holidays as well as enjoying the Norwich Phil activities, which Martin mentioned earlier. Over the years, my mother has championed and initiated many twinning activities between the two cities: civic, artistic, religious, business and recreational. Many people have participated in these activities with both of my parents and are carrying on this legacy. During the coming year, I'd like to build on these activities and those with our other European twin cities of Rouen and Novi Sad and El Viejo in Nicaragua, particularly to encourage people of all ages, and especially the young, to build relationships and understanding across the countries. I attended Norwich High School for girls from the ages of 4 to 18, and then went to study at Warwick University, attaining a degree in management sciences. My working life has mostly been with Jarrold, based in Norwich, although I worked for the Consumers Association and Jarrold for a while in London. I thought I'd better escape for a little while, but I did come back to Norwich rather before I meant to in my mid-20s, and don't regret it at all. For almost 20 years, I have held the role of Community Affairs Advisor at Jarrold and been Secretary to and a trustee of the John Jarrold Trust. The Trust was established by my grandparents in 1965 to give an ongoing means by which the success of the company could make a financial contribution back into the community. As part of these roles, I've had the opportunity to be engaged with local economic development activities, and with charitable organisations across Norwich and Norfolk. I've aimed to gain an understanding of the challenges and opportunities for this area. It is constantly amazing to see the dedicated and visionary work which is undertaken by so many people to help support others and recognise a determination to make this a great area to live, study, work and visit, and especially those giving opportunities and support to those whose lives present considerable challenges. I'm sure that during the year, the Lord Mayor and I will meet many new people and revisit old friends and organisations to gain a deeper understanding of what is happening today and the current challenges. As referred to earlier, there is an ongoing need to raise the profile of Norwich and the many nationally and internationally significant activities which take place here, both to many of the people who live here and in the wider world. As well as it being an extremely lovely place, you only need to stand at the top of the market and look around at the marvellous and attractive mix of significant buildings from across the centuries to realise how well Norwich stands up against many other cities. Despite ongoing and admirable efforts, there are still many people, even in this country, who do not know where Norwich is or what happens here. I'm sure that it has been helpful to this cause to hear Professor Paul Hunter from the UEA interviewed frequently on national media for his sound and undramatic views on the progress of the pandemic. But there is a constant need to continue to raise the profile of the city. This chimes with the objectives of the City Council's 2040 vision, and I hope that the Lord Mayor and I will be able to support efforts through the year to shout proudly and authentically about Norwich. As has already been said, I am passionate about the role of cultural activities in this area. Norwich really is exceptional for the amount and quality of the artistic activities which take place here. And for me, it is rather special that this ceremony is being held exceptionally in St Andrew's Hall. My earliest memories of coming here are of sitting on the stage there, behind the Philharmonic Orchestra with my grandmother when I was about 6, and watching the musicians at close quarters. Since then, I have sat on this stage for school prize givings, attended Norwich University Arts graduation ceremonies, attended and performed in numerous concerts, and in the past, various dinners. Indeed, last night, I was fortunate enough to sit over there and see and hear the Academy of St Martin in the Fields playing as part of this year's Norfolk and Norwich Festival. And it's so wonderful to hear live music again. The hall is a major hub for so much in Norwich, and it's heartening to see the improvements which are starting to happen to make it an even better and more flexible space for so many activities in the city. The Lord Mayor has announced the civic charity for the year and the particular theme which it represents. Significant fundraising in the traditional way through the Lord Mayor's procession will not be possible this year. However, I hope that we will be able to raise awareness of this important and life-changing work which the charity undertakes and contribute towards a strong and collaborative focus across organisations to make a real difference. Before I finish, I would like to say a few more personal thank yous, and particularly to those who cannot be with us at this ceremony today. To my children, Max, Felix and Louisa, for their constant support and joshing. My mother and sister Michelle and her family, and the rest of my family, both in the UK and in Germany, and to the many friends who've supported me. And to Nick for your constant support. I'm sure that we are embarking on an interesting year. So I now ask the sword bearer to invest the Sheriff's Consort, Mr. Nicholas Dixie, with his badge of office. I name as my under-sheriff as Miss Jane Mary Anderson. Thank you.
I call upon Councillor Waters to move the vote of thanks to the outgoing Lord Mayor and outgoing Sheriff.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. So, a historic question. what links Sir George Chamberlain, Lord Mayor of Norwich, and George White, Sheriff of Norwich, with the retiring civic team? When I was a teacher, you had to ride the silence to wait for an answer, but we need to move things along. So I will give you the answer. They were Lord Mayor and Sheriff in 1918. And in the autumn of 1918, the Spanish flu struck Norwich. And there was an interesting article in the EDP talking about quarantine and making sure that health provision was put in place and all the things that we're familiar with. Now, that civic team did the job for a year and then passed on to somebody else. This civic team have ridden out 2 years of the pandemic, and for that we are very grateful for giving a second year and adapting to the circumstances. And you heard it in the Lord Mayor's, the ex-Lord Mayor, as it were, at the beginning of his announcements today, talking about the use of Zoom. And I know that Vaughan and Viv and Marion and Peter have adapted to that to keep that connection with the important role that the civic team play in the life of the city. I'm just pleased that they had 9 months of what we might describe as normal activity, and really what a contribution they've made. It's been tremendous. And I look around this room, and there are those fine portraits of landed people, products of a pre-democratic age. And it just reminds us that what a shift there is. There is the honour of being a mayor or Lord Mayor and an honour of being a sheriff, but this is a democratic age. And I think this civic team have really focused on the importance of inclusivity, of encouraging aspiration. They've, in that metaphorical sense, put their arms around the whole of the city, every citizen, including people who have, in a metaphorical but sometimes literal way, washed up on our shores, refugees and asylum seekers fleeing things that we could barely imagine to come to a safe haven. And I think what they've done is they've deepened that involvement across Norwich in a time when, there is a sense of hostility, there is a sense of them and us fostered by populist politicians, and the importance of our cohesiveness as a community is more important than ever. So they have been highly effective, highly engaged civics with a deep sense of social responsibility. And they've been working civics. So Vaughan has continued his work for the Norfolk Community Law Service in welfare rights. Viv is an educationalist working with young people. Peter's been working at the NHS, and he's played an enhanced role in democratic engagements during the last local elections. That's a roundabout way of saying he stood for a certain political party. And Marion has done superb work in terms of the refurbishment of the Norwich Hebrew Congregation Synagogue, which I was delighted to see the results of, having seen it in its early stage, in its existing stage, and then refurbished as a community asset. And the work that's been done around promoting equality and human rights has been really very, very significant. So this is a civic team which have added to the social capital of the city. And I've been personally delighted to be with the Lord Mayor when he turned up at a bus strike in chains. I'm not quite sure that conformed entirely to the rigours of the civic protocol, but nonetheless in a freewheeling spirit, but one that was meant to just remind us of the importance of trade unions as an integral part of a civic and democratic society. And I've been delighted to walk around Norwich with Marion and Peter, uncovering the Jewish history of the city and working on identifying where the record should be made clear that there has been a tremendous contribution to Norwich by the Jewish community through the centuries. And that work continues. And it's been about uncovering and addressing inequality and racism. These are times where Black Lives Matter, where the inequalities revealed by the pandemic have come to the fore. And so their charity, which is the Norfolk Community Law Centre, is really about helping people exercise those rights of citizenship, to promote equality and reduce poverty across Norwich. So I hope they've had fun. Every civic team should have fun. But I know what the seriousness of their purpose has been over these 2 years. It's been a tremendous contribution, and I thank them all for the work that they have done. So it gives me great pleasure in expressing my appreciation, the Council's appreciation for their valuable services rendered by both the Lord Mayor and the Lady Mayoress, the Sheriff and the Sheriff's Consort, on behalf of the citizens of Norwich, and we record our warmest thanks.
I call upon Councillor Schmierer to second the motion.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Britain has always done pomp and ceremony spectacularly well, even in the most unusual of circumstances, such as today. And Norwich, indeed, as one of the great medieval cities of the kingdom, is no exception. And I know I'm not alone here when I say that my heart is always filled with pride when I see that road sign announcing that I am entering Norwich, a fine city. It's obviously been a 24 months unlike any other, but the way in which our communities have come together and the way that our civic leadership team of Vaughan and Marion have helped and supported groups over the last 2 years has ensured that our city remains worthy of that epithet, a fine city, that George Borrow first assigned to our city a couple of centuries ago. Vaughan and Marion, ably supported by Vivian and Peter, have endeavoured to maintain the traditions and history of our fine city and create new ones. I know what an honour it is to represent a city which I know we all hold so close and so dear to our hearts. Norwich indeed is more than its architecture, however impressive that may be. It is more than its cathedrals, its medieval castle, its bustling market, and even Gerald's its shop. What makes Norwich indeed, what makes any city is and are its citizens. In the case of Norwich, their passion, their energy, their enthusiasm and warmth is palpable wherever one goes, and that was epitomised by Vaughan and Marion. One only needs to go to one of the many pubs in the city, which we are now at last once again able to do, to feel that warmth, or sit on the terraces of Carrow Road, which I look forward to doing next season, to experience that passion and witness the strengths of pride that people here have for their city. So strong is that sense of community that Norwich, in my view, is more akin to a big village, one in which no one is a stranger. That is not to say that Norwich doesn't have its problems and its issues. Indeed, it is a city with still too great a divide between the rich and the poor. It is a city that is not immune to the ongoing scandal of homelessness, deprivation, premature mortality or poverty. But in Norwich we are blessed that we have organisations and individuals like Vaughan and Marion who work hard tirelessly to do what they can to mitigate the effects of the social and environmental ills that blight us all, directly or indirectly. I therefore, with real pride and pleasure, want to thank the outgoing Lord Mayor and Sheriff for their work in meeting so many individuals associated with the charity and community groups who are doing what they can to improve the lives of others. The most important part of this role as Lord Mayor or Sheriff is meeting those who too often receive too little recognition for the work that they do in ensuring that this city retains that epithet, a fine city. These are the unsung heroes in this city, and I wish to end by thanking the outgoing Lord Mayor and Sheriff for their work over the last 2 years in ensuring that the efforts of these groups don't go under the radar any longer. Thank you very much.
I will now put the motion to the vote. Will all councillors present please indicate those in favour? That's another unanimous. The motion is carried. I call upon the outgoing Lord Mayor, Councillor Vaughan Thomas, to respond.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and may I begin by wishing you every success in the year ahead. You will make a fantastic Lord Mayor, and I know serve this city faithfully and truly. I thank every person in this room and beyond in the city for their incredible support to my wife Viv and I over the last 2 years. A huge thanks to Dr. Marion Prinsley and her husband Peter for their amazing help and support as Sheriff of Norwich and Consort. You have truly done our city proud. A special thanks also to Max Aldridge and Laura Foster in the Civic Office, who have been so ably in assisting me and supported our team and worked so hard. It's in very difficult circumstances. We're lucky as a City Council to have you. The help, assistance and advice you have given me in respect of various civic protocols has saved me from dropping any number of social clangers. I'd also like to thank Larry, our civic driver, who was so much more than just a driver. Councillor Schmierer alluded to this in his valedictory speech 2 years ago. People would ask if Larry was my personal protection officer, to which I'd always leave them wondering by only confirming he was ex-Anglian regiment. He did in fact save me on one social function, where one over-enthusiastic lady took hold of my hands and just would not let go. On seeing the alarm on the face of the Lady Mayoress, he took the matter on and interposed himself between me and the lady. Thank you for that, Larry. Much appreciated for everything you did with us. I started my term of office as your Lord Mayor with a promise that I would put people first and shine the spotlight on the many, often unsung heroes in this city and keep Norwich going. The last year, through this terrible pandemic which has swept across our country and city, has underpinned the most tragic and powerful way the simple importance of this message and the promise I made to you all. The message that is the people of our city which really make Norwich such a fine place, a caring place, a city of hope, community and solidarity itself. Our city has responded to the horrors of this disease magnificently, something that has not happened since over 100 years ago. The kindness, the generosity, the literal sacrifice to care for one another. It saw our communities through and sought to overcome it. It succeeded for the vast majority of citizens. Thank God for our NHS, our key workers, public servants and all those engaged in the positive collective common endeavour which saw us innovate and overcome the worst impacts of this nightmare, together as a city community. It taught us once again that health, community, our environment and our interdependence on one another is the only solution for our future as both a city and a country. It cannot and will not be forgotten. We stand here today, or most of us are sitting, we sit here today, and we will never forget the sacrifice that so many who have paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we can move forward once again as a city community. We thank all of them. But what of the future then, friends? My departing words are that we must have pride in our city, its people, institutions, and the relationships which bring us together as one. We are greater than the sum of our parts, and the differences, sometimes imagined, when I first took office in May 2019, are perhaps not as great, significant, or important as some of us might believe. Working together, we will always succeed, which reminds me of a poem about what is success. It's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I had it pinned on the wall next to my desk. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know that one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. I have endeavoured to live up to this as Lord Mayor. Finally, I thank you once again for giving me the honour and privilege of my life to have been your Lord Mayor and to have been provided with the chance to help support the work of our great city over these preceding 2 tumultuous years. I look forward to working with you all in the future in my role as a city councillor, welfare rights worker and citizen of this fine city. Thank you.
I call upon the outgoing Sheriff, Dr. Marion Prinsley, to respond.
Do I need a microphone? Can you hear me? Lord Mayor, honoured guests, members and officers of the City Council, and incoming civic team. Wow, what an extraordinary experience we have had over these past 2 years. When thinking about what to say this afternoon, I realised that I really wanted to thank the councillors and the leader of Norwich City Council from about 20 years ago or so, who had the foresight to allow the sheriff to be chosen from the community rather than from the elected politicians of the city. When Peter and I attended the annual Sheriff's Conference in 2019, we learned that of the 16 or so city and town sheriffs of England and Wales, only 4 are chosen from the community. The rest are elected politicians. So I'm an ordinary citizen of the city, and the City Council has given me the opportunity of an extraordinary experience now over the course of 2 years. Being City Sheriff during these 2 years has been the greatest honour and experience of my life. The insights that we gained into the life of the city, the dynamic, fair, interconnected, livable and creative wonder that is Norwich. I can truly say that I have loved every minute of my time. Often, coming back from an event, I thought it would be really wonderful if every citizen could have a day as sheriff at least, because the loyalty that this role fosters to the city is second to none. Not everything is straightforward though, and had I been in a position to make the speech a year ago as was planned, I should have focused on the concerns which had been raised about racism and discrimination in the city and the lack of ethnic diversity. This was well before the Black Lives Matter movement, and now, having had a second year as sheriff, I've had the opportunity of working proactively within a group called the Norfolk Race, Equality and Human Rights Council to try and address some of these issues. But these are still serious concerns in our wonderful city. So the first 9 months passed by in a flash, attending many wonderful events, the armies of volunteers who go so far and the armies of workers to make life better for others. But it's easy for us to rest on our laurels and to pat ourselves on the back. There are so many affected by the coronavirus pandemic, by structural and institutional concerns and by lack of opportunity. The second year of Shrivanity, the year so profoundly affected by the pandemic, has shown me a completely different side of the city. a side which is truly struggling, and there is no doubt that the lack of funding will continue to have serious implications on the lives of all of us as citizens. But hugely well done to everyone within the City Council for keeping the show on the road and continuing to support the most vulnerable and needy in our society. Special thanks are due to Councillor Alan Waters, who has steered the ship so steadily during this incredibly difficult year, always managing to keep a smile on his face and offering a meaningful word to everyone around him. Many people have asked what highlights I can identify of my year. This isn't easy because every event that we were invited to was a highlight. But my own experience of coming here as a child and an immigrant at the age of 14, and my professional life working with children, means that there are 2 or 3 areas closer to my heart than others. We attended many graduation ceremonies in the summer of 2019, including that of my consort, who graduated with his MD. But the most moving of all was that for the Virtual School for Children in Care. This was an opportunity to celebrate the achievements of the county's looked after children, from the tiniest tots who were too nervous to walk onto the stage, through to school leavers. It was so impressive to see these children's achievements, large and small, being recognised. The 6 charities which formed the Civic Charity for the year 2019-2020 and then 2020-21 are each individually exceptional charities, and each have provided outstanding support during the pandemic. It's worth enumerating them. Age UK, Mancroft Advice Project, Equal Lives, Citizens Advice Bureau, Shelter, and Norfolk Community Law Service. Well done to all of you. I was heartened to be able to support our charities at a number of events, but particularly the legal fundraiser which we organised jointly with the School of Law at the University of East Anglia. This Access to Justice event brought together the city, the university, and the charities. Deepest thanks to everyone concerned. During my year as Sheriff, I have had another privilege, the privilege of being appointed as a Deputy Lieutenant for Norfolk. This was a totally unexpected honour. Before my year as Sheriff, I'd never heard of a Deputy Lieutenant. I didn't even know how to say the word. So the learning curve has been pretty steep. I plan to use my time to continue to support those causes which are close to my heart: discrimination and working in schools for children with profound and complex needs. Alan has already mentioned that the work at the synagogue, which we mentioned at the start of our term as Sheriff, has been completed, and it's very gratifying that we are now going to be able to open the synagogue to the citizens of Norwich when we put together a Jewish Heritage Centre, and we would like to invite you all to come and see the Norwich Synagogue and learn about the important Jewish history here. The ancient and history-filled Guildhall housed my office for 2 years. We've loved the use of the building and showing it to people and inviting guests there. But it's been sad to see it otherwise empty, so we're thrilled it now has a new purpose for the immediate future. As a city, the fact Norwich now ranks 3rd after the City of London and the Borough of Kensington and Chelsea on the National Heritage Index. So we really must find a way of using these beautiful buildings to bring people to Norwich. Now, I've got lots of thanks to offer. I would like to thank Laura Foster, who's sadly not here today, she's working in another area of the council, and to Max Aldridge for their incredible support over the 2 years, and to Larry, who Vaughan has already mentioned. I'd like to thank David Fullman for putting my name forward as Sheriff, to Caroline and to Gail for seconding that. I would like to thank all the officers at City Hall who have worked so hard and have been so supportive, as well as the fantastic team of City Hall superintendents who have always been available at the end of a phone if needed, particularly in relation to the Guildhall, and made my life so much easier. Thank you all. It has been the privilege of my life to get to know the Lord Mayor and the Lady Mayoress over the course of 2 years. Thank you for being such an outstanding couple to work with. We wish the incoming Civic team an amazing year, and we hope that this will be the year when Norwich wakes up from the pandemic and this wonderful city will have much to celebrate. We know that Kevin and Caroline will do a magnificent job and bring different perspectives to the role. Deepest thanks to my Under-Sheriff Jane Anderson for her unwavering support and advice. Thanks to my Deputy Consort, Poppy, to my 3 children for their forbearance, and to my family for their support. But my final thanks are to my husband Peter, an ENT surgeon who was completely astonished to find himself to be a sheriff's consort over these 2 years. He has been, quite simply, a tower of support and steady guidance. Still employed as a busy hospital consultant, Peter found himself rushing occasionally between the operating theatre or the clinic room and a civic event. Whilst at events, he occasionally received an urgent call to attend the operating theatre and rushed away to operate. We've both really enjoyed the wonderful opportunities gained during our 2 years, and it's been fun. And I know that Peter has particularly valued the insights it's given to the machinery of local government. Thank you all.
I call upon Councillor Harris to move the election of a Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It gives me great pleasure in proposing Councillor Caroline Ackroyd for the position of Deputy Lord Mayor of the City of Norwich for this civic year. I know that Caroline has been a vital part of the civic team supporting Councillor Vaughan Thomas in his 2 years as Lord Mayor, and I know that our new Lord Mayor, Councillor Kevin Maguire, will find her wealth of knowledge invaluable. The duties that Caroline has undertaken during this last year have sadly been severely disrupted due to the pandemic, but hopefully this coming year will be different. Hopefully there will be opportunities for Caroline to get out and about, to do what she does so well, that is to engage with people. In conclusion, I would like to thank Caroline Ackroyd on behalf of all of the Council for her diligence in the work that she has previously undertaken as part of the civic team, and I hope that as she continues with the role, this will be a year for Caroline to enjoy. So I move this election of Deputy Lord Mayor.
I call upon Councillor Wright to second that motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It says on our agenda paper today that the role of Deputy Lord Mayor is to chair council in the absence of the Lord Mayor. But from personal experience, I can attest that it's far more than that. And I know that Councillor Ackroyd has really enjoyed being Deputy Lord Mayor and supporting the outgoing civic team, and will no doubt enjoy and relish working with the incoming team. I could go on and talk for a long time about her suitable qualities for being Deputy Lord Mayor. After all, I've known her literally all my life. But I think, I will just leave it as to say that I wholeheartedly second her nomination, and she will absolutely enjoy it for another year. Thank you.
I'll now put the motion to the vote. Will all councillors present please indicate those in favour? That's carried. I declare the said Councillor Ackroyd duly elected. And I suspect never again will have a meeting to chair which has so many unanimous votes. So I'm just going to enjoy it. I call upon Councillor Harris to move the election of Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It gives me great pleasure to propose Councillor Alan Walters as Leader of the Council. Probably more than most people, I realise the enormous pressure that Councillor Walters has been under during this pandemic. He has led this council throughout keeping the needs of the people of Norwich at the very heart of everything. I would like to personally thank him for his leadership skills, his commitment to keeping the ordinary everyday business of this council on track, and then his tenaciousness in making sure that as a city we have supported and kept people safe as we have navigated our way through this pandemic. As we move into the phase where many of our residents have had at least one of their vaccinations, we must not become complacent, and we need to make sure that once again the city becomes the vibrant city of which we are all so proud. I hope that you will all join me in the thanks to Councillor Waters, and I formally move that Councillor Alan Waters be elected as leader of the council.
I call upon Councillor Stannard to second the motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Formally second.
Thanks, Mike. I will now put the motion to the vote. Will all councillors present please indicate? By gum. Thank you so much. So that's carried. I declare the said Councillor Waters duly elected. I now call upon Councillor Packer to move the appointment of Honorary Recorder.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move that the Council appoints Her Honour Alice Robinson as the Honorary Recorder for the new civic year.
I call upon Councillor Harris to second that motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Formally second.
Thanks, Gail. I will now put that motion to the vote. Will all councillors present please indicate those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. That's carried, and I declare Her Honour Alice Robinson duly appointed. We're now on item number 8 of the agenda. I call upon Councillor Waters to move the item on appointments to committees as set out in Appendix A to the agenda.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Formally moved.
And I call upon Councillor Stootley to second the motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Formally seconded.
Thank you. And now put the motion to the vote. Will all councillors present please indicate those in favour? Not a single one against. Thank you so much. That's carried, and I declare the resolutions regarding appointments to committees have been carried. I now call upon Councillor Water to move item 9.
Formally moved, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Last page. I call upon Councillor Kendrick to second the motion.
Lord Mayor, may I congratulate you on your new position, first of all, and may I second this motion, please?
Thank you. I now put that motion to the vote. Will all councillors present please indicate those in favour? Thank you. Truly we are cooking with gas. And this concludes the business of the meeting. Can I ask the civics to leave the hall first, and members of the council and guests to follow democratic services to the exit?